Oh, you've come at last. You must be the young warrior striving daily on that battlefield called school. Allow me, Sun Tzu, also known as Sun Tzu, to guide you across the ages. This is not merely about study techniques or socializing. This is a strategy guide known only to victors on how to win without fighting. Grades, clubs, love, they are all battlefields. But you need no sword. What you should wield is wisdom, observation, and the inner strength of tranquility. To win without fighting is to arrange things in such a way that your opponent loses the will to fight even before the battle begins. To express the essence in one phrase. First, seek victory, then engage in battle. This means already deciding the outcome with study methods for exams, positioning for clubs, or presence in romance, eliminating the need to fight. Victory will naturally fall into your hands. The first step in achieving this is to know yourself. Your personality, strengths and weaknesses, energy fluctuations, moments when you are easily discouraged. You cannot form a strategy without understanding each of these. Why is this strategy necessary in the school context today? Because the modern educational environment has become a complex battlefield with knowledge, emotions, positions, impressions, and strategies all intermingled. The old, just do your best, no longer applies. What is needed is a strategy stripped of all waste. What I will teach from here will be your map to winning without fighting. Now, listen carefully. This is where the real lesson begins. Some might feel uneasy comparing a place of learning to a battleground, but remember this: making it to school on time every morning, finding your place in a crowded classroom, proving yourself in exams, competing with teammates in clubs while vying for recognition, and even the battle of catching the eye of someone you secretly admire. Where in all of this is there room for a life without strategy? So I ask you, why do some people not see their scores rise despite studying? Why do some clubs not reward their hardest working members? Why do kind people get left behind in love? The answer is simple. They don't know how to win. You mustn't start a battle without identifying your enemy. Victors are those who have already won before the battle begins. What about you? You sit at your desk, logging hours mindlessly, but do you quantify your understanding? You sweat it out in clubs, but have you analyzed your coach's personality and tactics? You develop feelings for someone, but have you grasped their interests and the structure of their social relationships? All these are the practice of the saying, all warfare is based on deception. In other words, warfare is not always about directness, but a chain of clever strategies and observation. Charge front first, and you'll be repelled. So then, how should you fight? I shall teach you the answer. I promise you, by the end of this discourse, your understanding of effort will transform. You'll grasp how strategy can silently, sharply, and sometimes gently guide people. And most importantly, you'll realize that winning in school isn't about scores, victories, or popularity. This is victory in the sense of leading your own life. It's the silent strategy of winning without fighting. Behold, the modern place of learning is enveloped in an unprecedented chaos. You might perceive the classroom's silence as peace. But that's just the surface. In reality, unseen fires of battle rage on. Social media gossip, rankings based on evaluations, invisible atmosphere control, managing teacher expectations, and the struggle with one's own heart. Take, for instance, a class where the right answer is unclear. Pupils are marked down for textbook answers, whereas those who read the room are rewarded. In clubs, one's position might depend more on attitude towards seniors than skill. In romance, the network of who likes whom often decides outcomes before the battle even begins. In essence, the contests are always decided where you can't see. This asymmetry of information, this is exactly the real versus illusion world spoken of in military strategy. Never reveal your intentions to the enemy. Exploit their weaknesses, as Sun Tzu teaches and is now a survival tenet in schools. Why has it become so chaotic, you ask? Because standards are vague. Unlike the past, when all that mattered was academic scores or athletic prowess, now everyone seeks their own definition of victory, and the classroom is the arena for this struggle. Amidst all this, some have already realized, simply being earnest leaves you at a disadvantage. Stand out, and you'll be attacked. Stay unnoticed, and you'll be overlooked. How can I ascend without clashing with anyone? The answer to such questions is singular: win without fighting. In other words, create a state where without facade, you are already victorious. This is Sun Tzu's strategy. So, which battlefield is your school life like? The race for grades, the control of human relations, the negotiation with teachers, or the pursuit of inner peace? Whichever it may be, my wisdom is applicable. Next, I shall speak of the essence of battle, drawn from the past. Are you prepared to draft your own map? My name is Sun Tzu. Born in the spring and autumn period, I served kings and survived the tumultuous times as a warrior. My words, known to later generations as The Art of War by Sun Tzu, have echoed across countless battlefields for over 2,500 years. There is something I wish to convey to you first. I did not speak of how to fight, but rather how to win. You need only fight when victory is assured without taking up arms. By doing so, unnecessary conflicts, wounds, and grudges do not arise. This philosophy is rooted in my words. All warfare is based on deception. This means that warfare is not a straightforward contest, but rather involves deception, observation, and taking the initiative. Conversely, it also acknowledges the harsh reality that the one who makes honest efforts does not always win, yet it is a strategy to find a path to victory. For example, know your enemy and know yourself, and you will not be endangered in 100 battles. This means that by thoroughly understanding both your enemy and yourself, the path to victory will always be visible. In school, who is the enemy? It is the exam questions, the atmosphere of the class, the criteria of evaluation, and sometimes one's own weaknesses. Knowing oneself is not mere self-affirmation. What I sought was ruthless self-analysis. Why is my performance in mathematics not improving? Why do I become flustered when I make eye contact with that person? Why are my submissions always late? The stage for victory is not set for those who cannot mercilessly answer such questions. Furthermore, what does it mean to win first, then fight? It is about preparing and predicting to establish the conditions for victory in advance. Before class begins, anticipate the key points of the lesson. Before confessing to someone, explore their preferences and gaps in their heart. Before a club match, investigate the referee's tendencies and the pitch's slope. All of these are practices of the philosophy of winning first. In modern times, this philosophy might be seen as cunning. However, warfare is fundamentally about survival. Those who strive to be righteous and neglect the preparation for victory are the greatest cause of defeat. In today's world, where information is chaotic, emotions are on the surface, and human relations are densely packed, this art of knowledge will ignite once again. I entrust it to you, quietly, steadily, and before anyone realizes it, gain victory with this wisdom. You find yourself living on a battlefield of exams where scores determine your fate, and simultaneously navigating the battlefield of human relations, which cannot be quantified. Let me explain how Sun Tzu's art of war applies here. First, regarding the battlefield known as exams. I have previously stated, win first, then fight. Exams are essentially decided the moment they begin. The key to victory is being so well prepared that solutions immediately come to mind when problems are presented. For example, with English, instead of learning 10 words a day, focus on mastering words with the highest likelihood of appearing in exams. For math, don't just memorize solutions. Identify the patterns in where mistakes occur. All of this equates to knowing your enemy. Simultaneously, by understanding where you might falter, you achieve knowing yourself. The same principles apply in club activities. I value momentum. It's not just about pre-match practice, but about information such as who you're teamed with, where you stand, and where the coach's gaze is focused. This kind of positioning can determine the outcome of a match. On the battlefield, position is power. Take the basketball club, for instance. If a player skilled in three-pointers can find a space unnoticed, the coach will commend the one who created the play, not just the one who scored. Therefore, success is determined by laying the groundwork, not just by performance. What about love? Here too, the art of war is effective. Before making the attack of confessing your feelings, you must thoroughly understand the other person's interests and circumstances. What makes them smile during conversations? What words do they react to? Who do they avoid? This is all knowing your enemy. My strategy states, do not reveal what he defends. Gauge where to attack. In other words, shield your heart's defenses while perceiving their gaps. Be able to win without lifting a finger, merely by presence. Listen well. Strategy is akin to quietly nurturing love. It involves creating an environment where victory is secured before the other party even realizes it. This is why the art of war applies universally. The 13 chapters of the art of war when left behind can be applied to the classroom, clubs, and romance. The only remaining question is whether you can embrace this form and read it within your daily life. Let me ask you something. If you were faced with a situation like this, what would you do? Imagine a friend who constantly burdens you with things that disadvantage you. They bombard you with study questions, always ask you to handle club chores, and even come to you for relationship advice without considering your side at all. However, this person is at the center of the group, and opposing them might lead to your own isolation. How you handle this situation reflects the strategy you choose. This is precisely what Sun Tzu referred to as an example of enticing with benefits and avoiding harm. When there is benefit to your own forces, move forward. When there is harm, retreat. Yet, the judgment of benefit and harm is always swayed by emotion. Cut ties in anger and you risk the loss of isolation. Endure repeatedly and stress eats away at your mind. A clear path to victory seems absent in either direction. That is the essence of a dilemma. So, what should you do? If you adopt the winning without fighting approach, the key is to subtly encourage your friend to rely on someone else instead of a direct refusal. For instance, suggest, "That person knows more than I do," offering them a more attractive alternative and thus relieving your own burden without disrupting the relationship. Alternatively, you can lure them onto the battlefield. In other words, start returning questions or making requests, demonstrating that this relationship is mutual. This shifts the dynamic from one of exploitation to something that naturally needs to change. These options are not definitive, right answers. But what Sun Tzu valued above all was not winning, but not losing. In other words, protect yourself first and choose a situation where you have the advantage. You too must have your own battles, misunderstandings with teachers, lack of support at home, the conflict when both you and your best friend like the same person. These are all terrain of conflict without clear victory or defeat. Thus, you must keep questioning. Does this choice lead towards victory, or is it purely driven by emotion? As I say, winning 100 battles is not the pinnacle of excellence. Excelling by achieving victory without fighting is. Seek the true meaning of this within your own questions. In your hand, you hold a smartphone. You listen to this narrative on YouTube, connect on Instagram, converse on WhatsApp or Telegram, and decipher the world through TikTok and Reddit. In this modern society, information is both a weapon and a battlefield, a terrain that Sun Tzu could never have envisioned. Yet my strategy speaks of an unchanging truth. He who controls information triumphs without fighting. For instance, someone's perfect life posted on Instagram might actually be a strategy. The trends on TikTok might be an act of morale manipulation. What you search on Google or ask ChatGPT is, in essence, a reconnaissance mission for gathering information. I have said in strategy, if you know your enemies and know yourself, you will not be imperiled in 100 battles. So, how well do you know the enemy now? Is AI an ally or a foe? Is social media a source of information or a source of confusion? In the modern era, the battlefield is not physical but perceptual. Every assignment posted on Google Classroom, every statement on Slack, every expression caught on Zoom, every conversation in Discord, these all constitute a battlefield of intent and impression. And with the rise of AI, dialogue-based systems like ChatGPT and Gemini can now act as strategic advisors. However, there is a stark difference between those who use AI and those who are used by it. To use it means to wield it as a weapon to enhance one's own thinking. To be used means to become merely a soldier who blindly trusts the information given. In short, AI itself is a part of strategy. Using AI to analyze team stats, decipher rivals' patterns, or predict exam trends transforms it into a predictive weapon for winning without fighting. Do not forget, technology is merely a tool, but whether it turns into a means of victory depends on you, the strategist. Once again, my strategy roars to life. On the modern battlefield and with tools of the future, the true victor is the one who controls information, emotions, and oneself. Close your eyes, listen carefully. Where does the noise within you come from? Your true enemy is not others. It's not external evaluations or scores. It's the illusion called expectations that we shoulder every morning upon waking. Are you too wearing yourself out with the string of musts? I must succeed. I must not lose. I want to be acknowledged. Even on the battlefield, I have said, the quiet one exploits the enemy's weakness. This means that silence itself is the greatest weapon. When your mind is agitated, you are being swayed by your surroundings. When your mind is calm, you are standing on your own ground. Do you possess that inner stronghold? Words that protect yourself even when you get bad test scores. A sense of self that you don't lose even when ignored by friends. The strength to embrace yourself even on loveless days. That is the art of war that silence teaches. Imagine it. The feeling of standing deep within a forest. The rustles of the trees feel like your own breath. In a place where no answers are given, where nothing is evaluated, reconsider the meaning of simply being. When you do, the words that emerge within you will likely not be strategies, but truths. A day without battle is the beginning of victory. To retreat is not to lose, it's to regroup. In the silence of doing nothing, there is the deepest learning. The strategy I speak of does not promote fighting. Rather, it contains the question, how can one avoid combat and protect their mind? So, do not lose yourself in the quiet. Silence is your true teacher. From now on, I will refine my strategies into actionable forms for you to employ daily. I will show you concrete ways to win without fighting within the confines of your learning environment. First, let us distill Sun Tzu's wisdom into these 3 principles. Secure victory before the battle begins. Principle of preemptive victory. Know both your adversaries and yourself thoroughly. Principle of information. Avoid confrontation. Lay the groundwork. Principle of non-confrontation. Based on these, I present to you 5 checkpoints for practical application. Sun Tzu inspired school strategy framework. 5 steps. 1. Identify your opponents. Is it the pattern of test questions, competition for a spot on the sports team, a rival in love? Determine the type of battlefield. 2. Inventory your own weaknesses. Where do you repeatedly make mistakes? At what moments does your spirit break? Without information, there can be no advantage. The ability to observe beyond emotions is crucial. 3. Visualize how to win in advance. Visualize your victory, e.g., how many points are needed on an exam, how to manage interpersonal distances. Do not enter a battle unless you can picture how you will win. 4. Lay the groundwork. For studies, anticipate question trends. In relationships, silently distribute goodwill. The quality of preparation directly translates into the quality of victory. 5. Embrace the art of retreat. Avoid forcing challenges. Rebuild by stepping back. Retreat is not a shame. Be flexible in shifting to another battlefield rather than pushing forward in a romance. Let me ask you this. Can you implement even one of these 5 strategies starting today? The key is not to stand out more than others, but to continuously and calmly lay the groundwork more than anyone else. Win without fighting. To do so, take action now. Today's move will prepare next month's victory. What remains in your heart? Word, strategy, or a quiet question? What is victory? It is not about defeating others. It is when today's self surpasses yesterday's self, even if just a little. Those who accumulate this small evolution will eventually go further than anyone else. In my strategy, there is no place for emotion. Yet, emotion is always present behind battles. Anger, impatience, envy, fear. These are like smoke that distorts strategy. That is precisely why you must make space. At the end of the day, close your eyes for a few minutes and ask yourself, what battles did I fight today? It's not about winning or losing. Did you lay the groundwork? Did you retreat when necessary? Did you remain unaffected by emotions? Observing these quietly is the true training of strategy. In the sunset after leaving the classroom, the lights of a convenience store on the way home, or those few seconds when your smartphone's notifications are silent, it's in these gaps that only those who do not fight can hear the voice of truth. Today, I managed to get by without fighting. The day you can say that is a day of victory. You've kept up well until now. Your ears and heart have moved beyond a love of battle and have drawn closer to the true essence of victory. We have called the school a battlefield and described love and exams as strategy. However, we must not forget that the tactics I have taught are in essence the wisdom to follow your path without unnecessary conflict. When you show kindness to someone tomorrow, or when you offer words akin to laying the groundwork for someone suffering alone, these too are forms of beautiful victory. Victory without fighting. If my words have become a bridge connecting yourself of today with yourself of tomorrow, nothing could make me happier. Let me take this moment to say, if you wish to delve deeper into the thoughts of Sun Tzu, call on me again. We can read further chapters of strategy together, or you may choose to listen to voices from other times and places, such as the teachings of Buddha or Hypatia. I hope that wisdom, silence, and gentle victory accompany you on your path. Win without fighting. That is your rebirth. Now, the narrative draws to a close here for the moment, but the strategy within you is just beginning. Through this narrative, has anything changed within you? Is it your perspective, your way of thinking, or perhaps your sense of what it means to win? Strategy is not a textbook. It is like an invisible lens. Even a casual word exchanged in the classroom today. The words exchanged today might have been a stratagem. The other person might have been probing something. The moment you feel that, your eyes have already become the eyes of a strategist. Here, I will leave you with a few questions. The answers are not for me to give. They are for you to ponder quietly. Was there a moment today when you managed to avoid a battle? Tomorrow, if there is a situation where you can secure a victory in advance, where might that be? Who is the most unseen enemy right now? Is it external or internal? And above all, ask yourself, what is the victory that I truly desire? Is it points, praise, reassurance? Or is it a quiet strength that cannot be sullied by anything? As you carry these questions and sit at your desk again tomorrow, walk through your classroom and speak with others, just by doing so, strategy is already becoming part of your very being. To you, who has reached this point, I have only one thing to say. Victory is decided in silence. Carry these words with you, and we'll meet again somewhere. Wishing you good strategy and good silence.